the book of James, chapter 1, verse 20. The anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. Chapter 4 of the book of Ephesians, verse 26. Be angry and sin not. Do not let the sun set on your anger. Both of those verses show us that God knows we will be angry. And in fact, to feel anger is a reflection of God's personality, his character, the way he is. We are made, all people on the planet of earth are made in God's image. And the ability to feel angry is a reflection of his nature. The difference is that he's perfect and only produces life and goodness, whatever his choices, whatever his actions. That is not true about us. When we indulge our anger, it does not produce the righteousness of God. And in fact, we're exhorted not to let the sun set on our anger and to not sin on it. And so those are two things that are true. We can experience God's righteous anger. And when we do, we are so connected to his spirit that he will lead us and show us what next steps to take so that it produces his righteousness in the circumstances and where we find ourselves. But when we indulge our own anger that's fueled by our brokenness, by our wounds, by our unforgiveness toward others, it brings damage. It is not life-giving at all. Jesus said that he came that we might have life and live it to the full. It does not produce that in our relationships, what Jesus' purpose is. And we say we're Christ followers. We say that we live by his spirit in us. And so it is important that we learn to pursue one and deny and reject the other. And that takes action and resolve on our part. I don't want to bring destruction. I want to be an agent who produces the righteousness of God in my relationships, wherever I find myself. And sometimes that means being quiet. Sometimes that means speaking up. But I ought never and always never act on my own anger and always ask God to help me diffuse it. Because I want to tell you, I want to admit that when I feel particularly provoked by my own anger, what my heart cries out to God is, will you rattle that person like a rag doll and shake them until they agree with me? Will you show them every way that they're wrong and every way that I'm right? That is how I feel. But by choosing not to speak up and not to act on my anger, I give God a chance to set me straight and rattle me like a rag doll. I need to grow in this area. I haven't achieved perfection at all, but I have at least achieved a place where I understand the difference between the two. And I invite you to join me in that journey. Join me in learning the difference between the two, to become agents of God's anger that produces his righteousness, and to reject our own anger, not to pretend it's not there, but to reject it and not act on it, and ask God to diffuse it and to bring correction to us, so that we might be what Jesus said, his agents to bring life, so that we and those around us will live life to the full and fullest.